because from now on until forever, you will forever represent the kingdom of Owen Hart.
When it comes to AEW's women's division, there has been nothing that helped show its true depth and potential better than the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. During an interview, Tony Khan explained, like in most prestigious tournaments in sports, for example Wimbledon, a tournament is held for both men and women competitors. And AEW wanted to give the Owen that same prestigious treatment. AEW has made it no secret how much they want to present pro wrestling as close to sports-like as possible. And as you'll see in this video, they have done that successfully. In my previous video, I have explained the history of the creation of this tournament and its importance in honoring the legacy and name of Owen Hart, who was such an important pioneer in the sport of pro wrestling. An importance that echoes through the women's division, as we will see all kinds of styles, techniques, and storytelling inspired by Owen Hart utilized by the competitors in this tournament. With the finals of this year's Owen just around the corner at Double or Nothing, I want to give some highlights and a recap of the tournament's past and how it has not only shed light on Owen Hart's name, but also to the growth of AEW's women's division.
From that loss that day at Arthur Ashe Stadium. And the only way to get rid of that ghost is to finish this. Is to finish that haunting, is to finish that annoying little voice in the back of my head. And it's to beat her at Double or Nothing.
The inaugural tournament was special in many ways. For one, Owen Hart is finally mentioned again in a major wrestling promotion after many years. And for another, this tournament helped highlight and build a lot of stories for the women's division outside of the World and TBS Championships, helping give more depth and meaning to each match involved. After winning their respective eliminator matches, the qualifying competitors were Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Jamie Hayter, Riho, Red Velvet, the runaway Ruby Soho, Chris Statlander, replacing an injured Hikaru Shida, a recently debuting Toni Storm, and the Joker in the indie darling Maki Ito. There was a lot of potential for main event caliber matches in this bracket, with 3 former women's world champions in the first round. Not to mention, this Owen presented a lot of first time ever matches like Jamie Hayter vs Toni Storm and Ruby Soho vs Riho. Ultimately, Britt Baker found herself in the finals after overcoming a former friend and tag partner in Maki Ito, and then beat AEW's newest face in the rockstar Toni Storm during the semi-finals. But on the other side of the bracket was Ruby Soho, who went through a high-paced match against former women's champion in Riho, and then put away one of the most physical wrestlers in AEW in Chris Statlander. The finals of the Owen was a rematch between Britt Baker and Ruby Soho, who are no strangers against each other. Originally facing off a few months ago during AEW's Grand Slam for the Women's World Championship, Ruby and Britt continued their feud after Britt cheated Soho off the World Championship, and now their feud culminates once more during the finals of the Owen tournament. Ruby, who has been chasing that big win, finds herself in the finals for redemption after being cheated off a world title by Britt Baker and her entourage. And Britt Baker, the so-called golden girl of AEW, was looking for another accolade to add to her belt by becoming the inaugural tournament winner. This rematch was definitely better than their first, with both competitors being more familiar against each other's moves, like Soho now being able to fight off against Britt Baker's lockjaw, and Britt Baker being able to survive a no-future kick from Ruby Soho. While Ruby wrestled a better match using a number of holds and high-impact spots, Britt Baker was able to outsmart and utilize Ruby's momentum against her, targeting Ruby's injured ribs to her advantage. Britt didn't win with her usual finisher, but with a role reversal that helped crush Ruby's ribs to secure the win for the surprise victory and the honor of becoming the inaugural Women's Owen Hart Cup winner.
Here, congratulations on the win. Ladies and gentlemen, stand up for Willow. She is now officially All Elite. Congratulations. versus Willow.
After a great showing during the inaugural Owen, it was clear the tournament was here to stay, and that's what helped ramp up the stakes during the second tournament, with a lot of new and younger names in the AEW locker room entering to make their own statement. Wrestlers like Willow Nightingale, Sky Blue, Anna JAS, Billy Starks, the fallen goddess Athena, the native beast Nyla Rose, and the returning finalists of last year's tournament in Dr. Britt Baker DMD and the runaway Ruby Soho. From the first round matches alone, there has been a strong tonal shift, especially from Ruby Soho. The runaway has had an interesting few months after the first tournament and found herself allying with the Outcasts in Saraya and Toni Storm. Ruby had set her sights to right the wrongs of last year and will use any means possible to win the Owen this time around. The Outcasts were not a popular bunch and often found themselves going head-to-head against the so-called AEW Originals spearheaded by Britt Baker. As she faced the Doctor during the first round of this year's tournament, where she was finally able to steal a win from her longtime rival, all thanks to the help of the Outcasts. And with that win, Ruby was able to steamroll her way to the finals, taking out another thorn in the Outcast side in Sky Blue during the semi-finals of the tournament. However, on the other side of the bracket, a smiling ray of sunshine was on a rocket strap rise to the top in Willow Nightingale. After becoming All Elite last year, Willow has become quite a fan favorite in All Elite Wrestling, and her showing in the Owen proved just why. In the first round, she eliminated a fellow powerhouse in the Native Beast and former women's champion in Nyla Rose, and then found herself in a rematch against current ROH Women's World Champion in Athena, where Willow also scored an upset victory, tying their feud to 1 win each. Not only did Willow secure a spot in the finals, but potentially she secured herself another match for Athena's world title. Willow versus Ruby in the finals was an interesting dynamic. On one side, we have a focused Ruby Soho dead set on claiming an Owen win through any means necessary. And on the other, we have a wide-eyed, hopeful babyface in Willow Nightingale. But don't be fooled by Willow. Sure, she's a girl who loves to smile and is all about a positive attitude, but beneath all that is a fighter with one of the most devastating power bombs in this sport. And ultimately, Willow's natural power sealed the match, with the Doctor Bomb being able to put down the runaway, helping Willow cement her rise by winning the Owen.
So, as AEW Women's World Champion, I am demanding that you be entered into the Owen Hart Tournament!
The 2024 Owen is undeniably a tier above the past tournaments. It was during this year that AEW announced a new reward was going to be given to the winner with a guaranteed world title shot at All In. And the competitors all entered with one similar goal in mind. They want to win that title shot. And this year's field is definitely its most prestigious, with wrestlers like the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo, the Professor Serena Deeb, a returning Chris Statlander, former world champions in Hikaru Shida, Saraya, and Nyla Rose, last year's winner in Willow Nightingale, and the glamour Mariah May. However, despite the big names and strong contenders on this tournament, the finals, heck the winner, was obvious from the start in Mariah May. Mariah, who has spent the better part of the year cuddling up and finding herself a mentor in Toni Storm, who was the world champion at the time, found herself in an advantageous spot with Toni's blessing to enter her in the tournament so they could finish their story and have their dream match at All In. But that's not to undermine the other competitors. Mariah had to earn and fight her way through hell going against Toni's former friend and a former world champion in Saraya during the first round. And then Mariah found herself going against another former women's world champion in Hikaru Shida. But despite the physicality and the hard-hitting brutality Shida was known for, Mariah persisted and survived all the punishment to secure her spot in the finals. History loves to repeat itself in the Owen, because on the other side of the bracket, none other than Willow Nightingale was back on the rise. Willow eliminated the Professor Serena Deeb in the first round. and then found herself in a physical and brutal fight against a former friend turned bitter rival in the powerhouse Chris Statlander. After a physical exchange, Willow ultimately emerged victorious, finding herself in familiar territory in the Owen finals once again. Despite going through hell against two former women's world champions, Mariah was easily no match for the strength of Willow Nightingale. If Mariah wanted that dream match against her mentor Toni Storm in the grandest stage of All In, Mariah had to wrestle smart to overcome her opponent. But Willow proved to be tougher than Mariah had anticipated, and while it seemed for a brief moment the dream was over, a bitter Chris Statlander returned and tried to cost Willow the match. However, the interference wasn't enough to put Willow down, as Mariah had to give everything she had to put the babe with a powerbomb away. Ultimately, Mariah caught Willow by surprise in a roll-up for the win, securing the Owen and the dream match at All In. The only unfortunate thing is Toni realized too late that Mariah had a different dream in mind. After months of playing coy, Mariah didn't only get to study and adopt Toni Storm's moveset, but she also got Toni to sign her own downfall, because don't forget, it was Toni Storm who added Mariah to the Owen. And Mariah didn't waste that opportunity when she finally went face to face with her former mentor and ultimately defeated Toni Storm with her own move, the Storm Zero, for the title. The legacy of the Owen Hart Cup continues to thrive with not only the stakes, but the whole tournament itself getting better. While the men's tournament has the spectacle of wildcards and debut, the women's tournaments lean heavily more on stories, interactions, and how even rematches or tournament returnees show their growth with each appearance. But this year, in 2025, the Owen shifted things a little bit. No previous finalist or previous winner returned for this year's tournament, but I can guarantee the competitors this year are arguably the best we've seen so far. If this year's tournament had a theme, it's definitely the best of the best. With Jamie Hayter, a former women's world champion, finding her groove again and is dead set on winning back her championship after hiatus from injury on one side of the finals, and on the other side, the CEO, the two-belt champion, one of the best women's wrestlers of all time in Mercedes Moné. Whether it is the men's or the women's bracket, the matches in these tournaments have all been linked and remembered under one name: Owen, the name and wrestler that AEW has done such a great job in honoring by booking and delivering such memorable matches and moments in his honor. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, for there are still more tapes to rewind.